Hey there, welcome to Mixing for Beginners. I'm Matt, and I want to spend a couple of videos, at least maybe 2 or 3 videos, talking about what we do, how we mix a vocal track. And vocals are arguably the most important thing in your recording because people listen for it, they want to hear the melody, they want to understand the lyrics, what you're talking about. It's such an important part of the song that we want to make sure that we do a very good job mixing it so that it's audible, discernible, and sounds good. It's not grating, it sounds pleasing. So the first step in that, though, is once we get a vocal take down, is we need to edit it. And so I want to spend this video talking about what the steps are in editing your vocal track so that in a subsequent video we can talk about the pitch correction part of it and then adding on the plugins, what the plugin chain is going to look like. So this track is something I've been working on, and here's a song. It's pretty much finished, I would say, with like finished vocals. Here's what it sounds like.
You wear the flag on your dress like a cataract. The dual colors see the truth and then filter it. And now your mind's eye is bruised like a pugilist. You evangelize in line with the saberist agent.
All right, so in the beginning, you probably heard 2 vocal tracks because I had this one still armed. The original vocal track is the one that I have open here, Vox Verse Chant Rec, recorded, I guess. So this is the comped version of several takes that I did put together. So I'm going to show you that first. So this is Ableton, and in Ableton, like a lot of other DAWs, it allows you to do multiple takes on the same track. And how we see those takes here is if we right click on the track, we get to show take lanes. And so when I recorded this, I just did 5 or 6 on each verse. And it's very simple to do. You just, when you're recording on this track, when it's record enabled, you can create a new lane, they call them lanes, and insert take lane if you want a new one. And then once you've got, so the first one will record on the top, but then you would hit the lane that you want to record on next, the lane you would want to record on next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't hear the original one, the first one you don't hear any of them that you've recorded. It's a blank slate for you. But the cool part, and in the past with other DAWs that didn't have this feature, how I would record my vocals is I would create 5 or 6 different vocal tracks and then just go one and then the next one, the next one, the next one, recording different takes, and then I would sort of put them together. But the cool thing about doing it this way with the take lanes is Ableton has this amazing function, some other DAWs do as well, called comping, which allows you to listen to each version. And here, I'm going to solo this one. So here's the comp version.
You wear the flag on your dress like a cat.
No pitch correction, nothing else on there. Here's this lane.
You wear the flag on your dress.
Next lane.
You wear the flag.
But what it allows you to do is as you're listening to it, it allows you to choose the section of each lane that you like best. And then just by hitting the return button, it adds it to like the main track here. So I just chose this lane. I just chose this little section. We'll go down to this lane and choose this little section. And you can see it change when I hit when I hit return. You'll see, look at the main track. See how it jumps and changes. And then maybe I like, this part over here or something. And then maybe like the rest down here. I'll just hit return. Bloop. And then when you remove the little engage on the lane button here, I don't know what that is, you can see in all of the lanes every single, where you comped everything from. And so that way, if you decide you don't like it, you want to change it, you know which one to single out and you know where to make the change. I'm actually just going to get rid of these because I've already comped them. But then, so anyway, so this is the comped version. So I've gone through all my takes and I've chosen the best parts that I like from each, and I've consolidated it into one. So let's stop showing the take lanes. So then, once we have the finished comped take that we want, what do we do next? Well, there are things that if we do now in the very beginning, before we put any pitch correction, before we put any effects on, if we do them now, it will set us up for success in the future. So there are some things that we're looking for. One of the things that we're looking for is as even amount of volume throughout as we possibly can. Now, we're gonna put compression on it later, which will even out the volume a bit. But if we start with a more, it doesn't have to be perfectly homogeneous. We definitely want to hear there's some timbre shifts that happen when you're louder or softer. So we still want to keep those in. But just if there's some really low stuff and then some really loud stuff, and you can hear in this track, I'm jumping from a higher note to lower note back and forth. So some of those lower notes, maybe it makes sense to bring those up a little bit. So let's look at that first. So how we would do it is if we select the clip, and then if you don't know Ableton so well, I did a just sort of a walkthrough that shows a lot of this stuff. If you want to just get a very loose overview of Ableton, watch that video. But down here in the bottom is where you could see it says drop audio effects here. Well, if we hit Shift Tab, it then shows the clip highlighted and zoomed in down below. And this opens up a window on the left-hand side that allows us to very easily change some volumes on some things. So I'm going to show you that, but first, let's just talk about what this clip window reveals to us. If you look to the left of the clip window, it gives us some details about it. It tells us where it starts, where it ends. It tells us, basically it tells us how many measures by the start and the end up here at the top. We can loop it from here. It tells us what time signature it's in, that sort of stuff. But below that, in the audio section, you see it says warp, there's follow, there's gain, and it shows us the beats per minute, so how fast this clip is going. Now, if you were to import audio clips into a project that the audio clips are from a project that's like a different beats per minute, it's a faster or a slower tempo, you could drop it in, open up the clip window, and go in here and warp it and change it so that it matches in beats to the tempo of the project that you're working in. And Ableton does like a very good job with that. It makes it pretty lossless. So you're not getting it doesn't change the pitch on you if it's faster. You don't hear any pops or glitches. It does a really good job. And this is where you would do it. You would choose the BPM that you want to go to. And then in general too, if warp is on your audio files and you decide you want to change the tempo of your entire project, Ableton again does a very good job doing that without any weird glitches or pitch changes or anything. You'd think if you shorten up the clip a little bit, you might get a pitch change. It might go higher, but no, Ableton does a very good job converting that for us. So I've definitely changed some projects by a few BPM, like 3 or 4, and the audio files sounded just as good. It didn't make any difference. I couldn't discern any difference to my ears. And anyway, so it's just another one of the features of Ableton that really makes it very easy to use. Well, the other thing that shows us here is this little gain knob, right? So this is where I would adjust gain. I would make parts of this vocal line either louder or softer, depending on if it needs it. So let's just listen to the raw thing and kind of go through it. Here we go.
You wear the flag on your dress like a cataract.
All right, so cataract right here. See how it's a smaller sound wave and it's lower in the range versus what else is going on. So I'm gonna probably just bring this up a little bit. And how you do it is you can just select this area. And so I have the grid off. So if you right click up here, you can turn the grid to your cursor to snap to different note lengths. Well, if it's off, then you can just select, at will here very easily. You can separate separate the audio file by hitting Command E on a Mac and see how it created 2 cuts there. And now what it does is it allows me to affect the gain on just this little section of the clip right here. So it's at negative 1.86 dB. I'm actually just going to bring it to 1 and watch the clip what happens. See the volume level come up. Maybe that's not quite enough. I might just go to 2 here and that'll be better.
Wear the flag on your dress like a cataract.
So that gives it a little bit more presence in my headphones.
The dual colors, see the truth and then filter it.
Same thing with filter. It's lower in my range, and so therefore the audio volume is lower. So I'm going to bring this up to 1. Let's see, maybe I'll bring it up to 2. Yeah, I think that should do.
And then filter it. And now your mind's eye is bruised like a pugilist. You evangelize.
So pugilist and you, let me see if I got that correct.
Pugilist, you evangelize.
Yeah. So I want to separate this run right here too. And I've got my preferences set so that when I make cuts like this, Ableton already puts in a fade for me. Like you can see the little fade right there. Fade in and fade out. So there shouldn't hear any difference here. We'll play it. Yeah, you don't hear any cut sound or anything. So I'm going to select it. Probably give it to, let's see, 1. Yeah, that looks better.
You
Sounds
evangelize in line with the saberists, agent.
Yeah, this whole section too. I remember from when I mixed it. Actually, I'm just going to make a cut. So Command E. And then I'm going to bring this up to, I remember this getting sort of hidden in the mix because there's a bunch of other stuff happening. So much better there. And then one thing you can do, I don't like to have all the cuts in there, is you can join all these back together. And if you just select them all, so you just use Shift and click on the beginning and the end and just hit Command J and it joins it. That's the command for join. And here we are at the sound file again. Now, there's another thing that I want to listen for. And that's if there is any like weird, I don't know, clicks or breaths or any like weird mouth sounds in here. A lot of times they're really low in the mix. You have a hard time hearing it. Plus, actually, if it's your own vocals, you'll have a hard time hearing it because you're the one who did it and you sort of forget. It sort of blends into your manner of speaking, of singing. But an outsider, it's a lot easier to hear on. But let's just listen back through here a little bit. And I'm actually going to give us a little more volume and just see if there's any breaths or weird vocal clicks or anything, because now is the time to remove them. Because later on, when we put effects on it, when we put compressors on it, and it starts to really like bring up low volume stuff, those things become a lot more present. And then you put, delay or reverb on it and they start to take off your mix. One of the most important things, this will be a reoccurring theme that I'll talk about, is finding space in your mix for everything that you've decided to include. So if you've decided it's important enough to be in your mix, you want to be able to hear it, which means everything needs to have its own kind of frequency range, sort of by itself, so you can hear it, you can discern it versus everything else. But also the little things add up. So if there are clicks or pops or instrument click sounds or things, and they're in the mix while something else is going on, those things are in the way. And like I said, they add up. So let's just listen through and just see if there's anything weird we can pick out. There might be.
You wear the flag on your dress like a cataract. The dual colors see the truth and then filter it. And now your mind's eye is bruised like a pugilist. You evangelize in line with the saberists, agent.
I think I might have already gone through this one and taken some stuff out right when I first recorded it. I don't hear anything funky in there, but sometimes you can see it too. Like what I was paying attention to here was like this little ripple sound here. And if you wanted to be super anal about it, you could just cut this out. I don't think it made a difference. I didn't hear anything, but just in case, you can kind of glance through too and just see if there's anything kind of funky in the spaces when you're not singing. This looks pretty clean to me. I'm just going to join this up again. Like so, and remember it's Command J. And so this is now kind of a finished comped, ready to be pitch corrected and then mixed, with effects added to it, vocal track. And I think that's pretty much it for this video. And then what I would say though is this is just one verse, one section, one verse. If you've recorded a bunch of vocals, I would do this with each one of your vocals first. It's good to stay in the mindset of what you're doing. So if you're in the mindset of editing, you kind of have different ears on than if you have the mindset of mixing. So do all your editing for all the vocal tracks that you've done first. Make them sound nice and clean. Then pitch correct all of them, and then go with mixing all of them. So we will talk about pitch correction in the next one. Thanks. See you.
Agent.